Today we're taking a look at the Creative Pebble X Plus speaker set. Thanks to Creative for sending these over for us to take a look at. The Pebble X Plus kit is a larger kit, but still desk appropriate for a 2.1 speaker setup. And I would say in the market, it fits nicely between a basic upgrade to your old speaker set and something like the Katana V2 type setup. It's right in that mid-range. You can see here as I unbox the Pebble X Plus kit that we have basically two upgraded speakers which are connected by a fixed wiring connection and the main subwoofer. The main speaker basically handles the connection to your PC or whatever device you're connecting to, as well as actually physically plugging that cable into the sub. As for the subwoofer, it looks like a nice design here. It's not too large, which is actually nice. It'll still fit on a desk, but I did notice that while the speakers do seem to have some kind of mounting hole, the sub actually does not. Not sure why they didn't add that, but just something to keep in mind. In my setup, it fit nicely on my desktop, so that's basically where I'm going to leave it. I also noticed that there's a decent amount of weight to these speakers and the sub in general. I don't feel like they're cheap, like that older pair of speakers that I have kicking around, and honestly, I think they look pretty nice too. I like the design, and the flat black color is definitely a favorite of mine. In terms of other accessories, we've got some cables in this accessory bag here. We have two USB-C cables and a 3.5mm audio cable. I should mention too that they definitely included a nice manual, but in general, I don't read manuals. I know it's kind of silly, but I always like to try to figure out how to use the product without it. And anyways, you'll always get the most up-to-date instructions from the manufacturer's website or online. But it's still nice to see that they include these. Not every brand does that. These are relatively versatile speakers, in my opinion, for most gaming setups. We have a few connection options here. Bluetooth, so you could totally use a laptop or your smartphone or even a tablet, as well as USB-C wired connections to whatever device. We also have a 3.5mm audio headset port and a 3.5mm dedicated mic port, which is definitely nice to see, and of course a 3.5mm standard auxiliary port. So you can pretty much connect this to any device that outputs audio that was made in the last 10 or 15 years. It's also important to note that this whole setup is basically powered by that red outlined USB-C power delivery port, which means that you either need a device that can supply at least 15 watts, but all the way up to 30 watts for peak output from the Creative Pebble X Plus speaker setup. Most PCs with native USB-C ports will easily do this, but Creative does offer a dedicated USB power delivery wall adapter if you have an older PC or device that just can't support that. Of course, no premium product these days is complete without at least a little bit of RGB. RGB increases your FPS, makes you smarter, you can jump a little bit higher, and you can pretty much do anything as long as you have RGB. You can toggle the RGB brightness up and down, or just turn it off if you want, with the RGB button mode and the volume dial. I joke about it, but honestly, it's kind of a nice touch if you're using this in a gaming setup, or if you just use these in a living room for like a party. Now that I've covered the hardware, time for my impressions of the sound quality. These are really a solid offering for the price, in my opinion, for enthusiasts who really appreciate sound. It's all too often that I cover tons of different types of PC components, reviews, all that good stuff for building a gaming PC, but I tend not to cover too much in the audio realm. Audio is actually super important. It's going to help create that immersion into the video game or the movie or TV show, whatever you happen to be consuming. When I personally test audio devices, I always like to try to test some of the exact same songs and then compare them to the older devices and then some new random songs. I would say overall that these were very good for poppy music. Of course, no party is complete without Taylor Swift after all, but they're also pretty solid for playing rock, stuff like Zeppelin, Black Sabbath. I didn't really have any complaints while playing just random top 100 songs either. I did do a little bit of gaming. I think for a 2.1 setup, these are definitely going to be enough for pretty much most games. The Pebble X Plus speakers can actually get pretty loud. These are easily enough for a gaming setup, and honestly, you could probably set these up in your living room and connect it to your phone with Bluetooth for a party. and everyone will end up getting a decent audio experience. It actually immediately came to my mind that I could totally use these when we have people over for Halloween or Thanksgiving or Christmas, and just kind of set them up in the living room and stream music playlists or even some of those favorite holiday movies, and these will be a pretty good experience for everybody. I think the quality of the bass unit was quite good as well. Generally speaking, I tend to prefer a little bit less bass, so I was able to manually tune that in Windows and pretty much get the exact sound out that I wanted. As for updating the firmware, RGB control, and other bits of software, you can actually download the Creative app software for PC, Android, and iOS. When I went to test it out on my PC though, I wasn't actually able to get the Windows application to work. That's probably something that Creative will have to look into. I do know that the Creative app definitely does work on Android and iOS though. I've used it in the past, and it was a pretty neat feature. As for configuring the sound and adjusting the RGB, well, you can definitely use the built-in Windows tools to adjust the sound, and there is that hardware button on the speaker for the RGB configuration, so that wasn't really an issue in my opinion, but I would like to see that get fixed. Overall, I would say that if you're in the market for a solid sound upgrade and speakers are kind of your preference as opposed to something like the GS3 soundbar, the Pebble X Plus setup here is definitely going to offer some great sound quality, some very good connection options, and versatility in the way that you actually use it, be it a gaming PC or just offering sound in a larger space. I think that in terms of value for dollars spent, that the sound quality is quite good in my opinion, and this solidly inserts itself right in that mid-range. So if you don't want to go too low or too high, I think you should be looking at the Pebble X Plus. Like I said before, audio can really impact your immersion into whatever it is you're doing, so definitely keep that in mind when you're shopping for audio parts. As always, I'll have links to the Pebble X Plus speakers and some other audio products, as well as gaming PC stuff in the description below, so definitely head down there and check that out. If this video helped you out, I would definitely appreciate it if you dropped a thumbs up on the video to let YouTube know to share this with other people who are researching sound upgrades. Gaming and home lab videos, as well as reviews like this one, are what I do around here. If you're into that kind of thing, get subscribed to the channel and then ring that bell for notifications. Until next time, keep on gaming.